There is going to be some activity, though, as players did not need to designate where they're headed, folks. So we're still going to hear those announcements coming out. 6 Buckeyes lost, Steve. The one that strikes me, Dallin Hayden, of course, is the guy that I really like, that I wish wouldn't have gotten away, but I totally get it. He goes out to Colorado. It's going to be intriguing to see what happens out there. They immediately lost their top running back, and 2 of their top 3 running backs immediately hit the portal with the wake in the wake of Hayden joining Dion out there. But 6 total players for the Buckeyes lost. And I mentioned right before we came on, Jihad Carter. It was a big deal when he was signed from Syracuse, but he turned out not to be a factor. But your thoughts about the losses on the Buckeye side?
Yeah, it's my understanding that players had until the end of the day on Tuesday to file their paperwork with their school, and it could still take up to 2 full days for people to pop up in the portal. 24/7 Sports, for whatever reason, our network seems to be pretty well locked in with the comings and goings of the portal, and I think as soon as names pop up, they've done a good job. A couple of the guys there of tweeting out the names. I think Matt Zenitz and Chris Hummer are the 2 guys who tweet out a lot of the names as they pop into the portal. And so there could actually be another name or 2. Plus, guys who are graduating at the end of this semester, they actually have until the end of today to get their paperwork into their school. So they actually had an extra day, I believe, guys who are graduating, which it's the end of the semester at Ohio State. I don't know when the commencement is scheduled, if it's this weekend or when it'll be. I assume it could be this weekend. So it's maybe still a state of flux, but they've got 6 guys who left in the spring portal. Jihad Carter, Cedric Hawkins, safety, Dallin Hayden, Enoch Vamahi, a 6th-year offensive lineman, Kion Grays, a 3rd-year wide receiver, and Nigel Glover. People will remember it was last summer when Pat Fitzgerald was fired that Nigel Glover, a guy from Dayton, reopened his recruitment, got a waiver from Northwestern, and ultimately signed to play at Ohio State, recruited by Jim Knowles. And you figure James Laurinaitis had a hand in it as well. And now, 9 months later, after being at Ohio State for a year, Nigel Glover is going to head off somewhere else. But, Carter, to me, I would agree. I think he had started at Syracuse. There was a thought that he would come in and he would play at Ohio State, but he was injured in the spring of 2023. I think he suffered a knee injury. I'm not sure he was ever fully healthy. And then they got more than adequate safety play from the guys who did play this past year with Proctor and Lathan Ransom, obviously. That they were fine at the safety position for the most part last season. So they really never had an opening for Jihad Carter to get an opportunity to start or play a whole lot for the Buckeyes. So he didn't practice this spring. If he did, it was just sporadically. He was in street clothes with a jersey on for the spring game. So, I don't want to say it's not a big loss, but I think they definitely need to go into the transfer portal here on the back half of this summer and find a safety now, because I think they're down to 6 scholarship safeties, and I think they'd like to carry 8 or 9 of them. I think they've got at least one Stewart currently committed, and there's a thought that maybe one of the corners that they have would be Sanchez or offered could move over and play safety down the line, or even Dorian Brew if they're able to sign him as well. So I look at, as you go into this, the safety position, the offensive line, and running back are 3 areas where they probably need some help here on the aftermarket, the after spring market.
Tony, your thoughts about the losses and whether this is, as Ryan Day mentioned, certainly players staying at Ohio State has been a big theme, and that's been proven as well.
Yeah, and these guys, you look at who left. I think there's 2 total starts at Ohio State among the 6, both by Enoch Vamahi, once against Michigan in 2022 and then the Cotton Bowl last year. But with Carter, I thought he was going to have a big role in the defense in 2023, but it never happened. He was pretty quickly passed by Malik Hartford as well. So when you have a true freshman passing you by and playing in front of you, Hartford got 2 starts last year. Carter didn't get any. And then, as Steve said, it was never really healthy either. So I suspect he'll go and play somewhere. Who knows? Maybe he goes back to Syracuse and becomes a 4-year starter there once removed. But when you not having Lathan Ransom or Jihad Carter this spring allowed them to put Jaden Bonsu out there a ton as the strong safety. He was with the ones the entire spring, so he got a lot of action. But like Steve said, they're down to 5 guys right now on scholarship at safety. They'll bring in another one in the summer, and I think they'll be able to make that work because they do really like Malik Hartford, and Jalen McClain, the true freshman, played really well in the spring. So, but we've seen so many injuries in the secondary the last few years that to expect everybody to be healthy and make it through, I think is maybe certainly hoping for the best. But I think that Jordan Hancock could play safety if need be, and then Jermaine Matthews would go to nickel, so they can work things around if something were to happen. But the other guys losing Cedric Hawkins as well, that was the first guy to go. He had already been passed by Jalen McClain, a true freshman. Enoch Vamahi was running with the 3s this spring, had been passed by 2 second-year guys and 2 third-year guys, so wasn't going to happen there either. And, Keon Gray's similar situation. You get passed by a true freshman this spring in Jeremiah Smith, and Jaden Ballard was ahead of him as well. So not a lot of path to playing time, but I think they're a little thin at receiver too, and we can maybe talk about that later on. So they're under the number by, I don't know, Steve, what your number is right now in terms of 85, probably like 4 under or so.
I got him
right now.
I got him at 80. Plus, you got to figure one spot. I don't have him down here on my sheet, but the punter that they signed, I think, is going to go on scholarship. I need to write his name down here. McLarty, maybe, is his name.
Yep, Nick McLarty.
I need to write his name down on my sheet because I think he's going to be a scholarship player. So that'll be 81. That would leave them with 4 scholarships out there that they can go get some talented guys who can help the bottom line this season. And as great a team as this looks like on paper, I still think there are some deficiencies here. I guess I'm gun shy, too many blows to the head here. Enoch Vamahi, great guy in the clubhouse, was beloved by all of his teammates. Just a tremendously soulful guy who, just a great person to be around. He got his opportunity in the Cotton Bowl. It did not go well, unfortunately. And I don't think the coaches can ever really put him back out there again with so many young guys trying to move up the line here. So, there was one play in the Cotton Bowl that just kind of typified everything. And we know that Missouri on a lot of plays brought more guys than Ohio State could block because there were young quarterbacks, Devin Brown and Lincoln Kienholz, and you wanted to throw the kitchen sink at Ohio State. But the issue was there was one play with just a straight 4-man rush where I think it was both tackles, Fryer and Simmons, and the guard, Vamahi, all turned their guys loose without hardly laying a hand on them. 3 guys running free at the quarterback on a 4-man rush, and that can't happen. And that's what keeps me up at night, people, is memories of that particular play that, when you go against insert Georgia, Texas, Oregon, whoever the very, very best in college football are, is this team going to be ready for it? And I don't know that they are. I don't know that they aren't. We won't know till that day comes. But, Vamahi, in a perfect world, he would go home and play a year at Hawaii and maybe even be a regular player for them. To me, that's where he should go. So, he's got family there. So he talked a lot during the earthquake that hit there that, it was, a tough situation back there. So Yeah.
So we agree with the 6 scholarships available. So is that the consensus between you two? You said
I'm
6?
saying
Four.
there's 4.
Oh,
I'm saying
4.
they've
4.
lost 6 guys here in the spring, but that only gets them down because there's a punter that they've got to put on, I think.
Yeah.
So I have them at 5 available, but then you add the punter, there's only 4 available. So
So in a perfect world, Tony, do they go get 2 offensive linemen, a safety, and a wide receiver?
The thing about this is the top offensive linemen out there, if you're looking at 24/7's transfer portal rankings, there's like one guy that is towards the top. He's a true freshman, so he's not going to help you. But the next,
Zandamela, is that who it is? Jason
yeah,
Zandamela, the USC
yeah, I
player.
believe so.
Yeah.
So you're not going to bring in a freshman who's just about a little bit higher, more highly ranked than Ian Moore, playing the same, whatever. You go to the next available offensive lineman in 24/7's rankings, and I believe he's ranked number 462. So Josh Simmons last year was somewhere around 115. Victor Cutler was somewhere around like 520 something. So yeah, go ahead and bring in whomever. And I saw the UCLA starting tackle hit the portal yesterday. So I checked in with somebody out west, and they're like, he should not have been starting at UCLA, and he would not start at Ohio State. He could be a depth piece, but there would be teams like out west and in the Big 12 that maybe he could start at if things didn't go well for them. So anytime that somebody hits the portal, it's automatically like that guy's got to be better than the guy that we have. And the reality is if he was better than the guy that you have, they wouldn't necessarily be hitting the portal all the time. So I can only say this so many times. I think they're going to be okay on the offensive line. We're talking about you need a right guard, and they've got 4 guys to choose from. So certainly in a much better position than they were last year. And so I don't know who they go get. I think if you're planning on playing Patrick Gerd, put him on scholarship. If you're planning on, they want 5 scholarship running backs. They don't have that right now. One of the guys that they may have been looking at from UMass, went somewhere else. So, is TC Caffey a guy that you put on there, or do you just reward the 5th-year guys and the Patrick Gerd who will probably play this year? And rather than somebody like a 3rd-year guy that is like a TC Caffey, you give him a scholarship, but then you're going to have to take it away because he's not going to hold it for the next 2 years or whatever, most likely. So they'll have to work that out. But again, who's out there? That's the question. I mean, it's not just this isn't going to Kroger. This is going to the Goodwill store and hoping they have what Kroger has, and that's rarely the case.
So, Steve, it sounds like your offensive line issue that keeps you up at nights is going to be answered not by more offensive linemen. It's going to be that Will Howard can dodge an extra rusher that Kyle McCord couldn't.
Yeah, I joked. My buddy coached high school football for a while, and he said, when you turn somebody loose like that, at least turn around and say, "Look out!" But I think it'll be a little bit better, obviously, than maybe how I'm portraying it. But I'm still just a little cautious about the whole thing. If I had to break it down with 4 guys, get an offensive lineman, a running back, a wide receiver, and a safety, that would probably be the perfect mix, maybe of guys. And TC Caffey is a guy, as a walk-on, who is healthy again, and he showed in the spring that he's a pretty good running back as well, kind of along the lines of what Tony's talking about with Patrick Gerd, that I think you could put Caffey on scholarship as well. And I don't think anybody would be too upset about that. So yeah, I agree. I think that you look at it, and again, they're dealing from a position of strength. I mean, they have a great roster assembled. It is this close to being perhaps a national championship roster, and they just might need that 1 or 2 finishing pieces to put them over the top. Depth pieces, guys that in week 12, week 11, somebody gets banged up and you just have a guy ready, that type of thing that gets in there and does the job. You never know when that moment's going to come up. This is one aspect of the transfer portal that has not been discussed too widely, but they apparently as I say, we don't know if all names are in there just officially just yet, but they apparently snuck past the graveyard here and have all 5 scholarship quarterbacks still in the fold. You didn't see Keenholz or Brown or Air Noland, who would probably be the 3 that, one of those 3 might have considered it. You didn't see any of those 3 jump into the portal. It sounds like, based on what everybody's saying is the young guy to watch for the future, and Howard is the guy for this season, etched in pencil. But to me, I think that's a major coup that so far none of those 5 has, again, flown the coop.
That surprises me. It's good news. It surprises me because you just have to figure the conversion rate of a 4th-string quarterback, especially this year's 4th-string quarterback at Ohio State, doesn't this guy start at basically not every group of 5 school, but doesn't Lincoln Keenholz and Devin Brown start at every group of 5? I'm sure we could find somewhere where somebody's really good, like a Michael Pratt from last year's Tulane team or something like that. But other than that, and some Power 5, don't they go to Rutgers? Or, well, they may not be the best example, but even with their Kalkumanis, Wimsat battle, don't they join the fray, and they've got just as much of a fighting chance for a Big Ten or an ACC job?
If you look at the way Rutgers has developed quarterbacks, wouldn't that be a concern if you're a quarterback looking to be developed? So I think these guys are looking at it as, I'm going to stay and be developed by Ryan Day for as long as I can take it. And if it doesn't work out for me, I'll go somewhere else. But I think Gavin Wimsatt, all of the expectations were very high for him, and we'll see what he does this year. But I have not seen a guy that has been getting developed. And if he has been, I don't know that you bring in Ethan Kaliakmanis in terms of, should that be a guy that can compete with him if he's getting developed at Rutgers? So I think you look at the different schools that you can throw out there. What about this school? I would say look at the guys who stayed at Ohio State and then went to the next level or were able to do something, rather than all of the guys that have left Ohio State. Like even Joe Burrow graduated from Ohio State before leaving. Quinn Ewers maybe the exception right now, but he was also the highest ranked recruit they've ever signed. So he's always been the exception. But I think there's value to sticking around, but eventually you've got to play. And so I think the thing with a lot of these guys with Sayin, Nolan, and Keenholz said it in the spring, like, if I don't win a job this year, I'm just going to use it to help me win the job next year, to try the experience. So they're so young right now. Why give up? And Devin Brown and Will Howard right now are the top 2 guys. So why give up? And I think it's just the timing of the circumstance right now that has allowed this, because of 3 young guys and 2 older guys who are locked in a battle right now. Neither one of them wants to budge, and they shouldn't. And Devin Brown all along the way has said, I'm not going anywhere. And, so I guess at some point, maybe we should believe the players, but it's not today. Well, we're going to need much more proof, because we've seen so many guys say one thing and then do the other. And with quarterback and then even the portal now, you can't have expectations of anything. The only thing, expect the unexpected, that sort of thing. You can't assume anything. And basketball is 10 times worse, where just expect a new team from year to year.
Did you guys see this? Marquise Davis picked Kentucky over Michigan. And I saw on here, one of our posters on here says, "Welcome to the Tony Alford experience, Michigan." As you know, back in the day, Kenyon Rambo, one of the captains for Ohio State, like in 2000, in the dying days of the Coop era, said they knew I was going to be late for shit when they voted me captain. In this case, you knew Tony Alford was going to lose out on blue chip running backs when you hired him as the running backs coach. So there you go. The gift that keeps on giving. And I guess this kid said that NIL was a factor. He's the first kid, I think, who said NIL was a factor in this decision. So maybe Kentucky paid more money than Michigan. How is that even freaking possible? the reigning, defending national champions of the sport, at least for the next 20 minutes or so.
And it's supposed to be the cycle after you win it where you start to really benefit from it. And that's, I don't know, maybe Kentucky is a year ahead of the game and they're benefiting from next year's national championship already somehow.